There's just one more thing I want to show you to do with acceleration, and this is a little bit which is on page 140 of your textbook. And in the textbook, it's just a little tiny section at the bottom of the page, but actually it does feature quite a lot in exams, and I just wanted to go through it with you. And it's basically showing how you can calculate acceleration from speeds or velocities and distance travelled. So it introduces distance for the first time. And this, you'll be glad to hear, is a formula, but it's not one that you need to remember. It's one that will be given to you on a separate piece of paper in the exam, so you don't have to memorise this one. Okay. Now on the exam paper, they'll give it to you in longhand form, and it looks horrible, but it's not too bad. Okay, all you need to do is have a bit of practice. Now, to avoid having to write all this out, we can use our shorthand version, our symbols. So we've got final speed or final velocity, which is v, and it's squared, so it's times by itself. And we subtract away the starting speed squared, and so that we can tell the difference between starting speed and final speed, we give this one a symbol which is u, the same as we've used before. And that is equal to 2 times the acceleration of the object times how far the object is moving whilst it's accelerating. And you think it would be d for distance, but we had to use s, which is shorthand for displacement, but it's just how many meters the object or the person has moved whilst it's accelerating. So that's the formula in shorthand. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you an example of a type of question where you're going to need to use this formula. So here we go. So this is one I've just made up, but essentially, if you can imagine you're in a car on a motorway and you're trying to overtake a lorry, and your car's got a set acceleration, and you go try and think about how far the car is going to go whilst it's accelerating. So a car wants to overtake a lorry on the motorway. Its acceleration is 2 meters per second. So let's just circle that one because it's a bit of data. And it needs to increase its speed or increase its velocity from 8 meters per second up to 14 meters per second. So it's getting faster, it's accelerating. So again, those are bits of data. So we would circle them so they stand out for us. So how far, so that's what they're asking us to work out. How far will the car travel whilst this happens? Okay, so they're asking us to work out, in this case, the distance. So the first thing to do is I'm going to write my formula down. So v squared minus u squared equals 2 times the acceleration times the distance travelled. Okay. Now, on a lot of exam papers, you might get a mark even for this because you're having to pick out the right formula that's going to allow you to solve the problem. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a little shopping list. So I'm going to go, okay, so V is equal to 14 meters per second. The starting velocity is 8 meters per second. The acceleration, we're told, is 2. And the displacement or the distance they want us to work out, we don't know that. That's the point of the question, isn't it? So that's what we know. So sometimes if you're sort of still finding it hard, you can list the things that you know from the question. And this may feel like it's taken you a long time, but don't forget that you might get 4, 5, 6 marks for a question like this. So it's worth, you do get given the time. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these numbers and I'm going to put them into my formula. So V, so it's 14 squared, take away the starting speed, 8 squared, that equals 2 times the acceleration, which is 2, times the distance, we don't know, so I'm just going to stick with its symbol, S. Okay, so 14 squared minus 8 squared equals 2 times 2 is 4 lots of S. Okay, So the next thing I need to do is I want to leave this one on its own. So I'm going to move this to the other side of the equal sign by dividing it, and that means it will cancel on this side. So 14 squared, take away 8 squared, all divided by 4 is equal to the distance S. Okay, so now we can actually just find the answer out. So 14 squared, get the calculator out, that's going to be 196. 8 8s are 64, so minus 64 divided by 4 equals the distance S. And then finally, that is 132 divided by 4, which will get the calculator, and that's 33. So S is equal to 33 metres. Now that is quite a hard question, and it's as difficult as you're likely to find. Okay, so have a look through this one again if you want to. You can copy it down with me just to sort of give yourself a worked example. And then what I'd like you to do is we're going to do some questions from page 141 of the textbook, and I want you to have a go at questions 7, 8 and 9.